Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Wellness Blueprints. I'm Jess Milner, and I'm so glad you're here to nourish your roots with me. Today, I want to talk a little bit more about, the heart chakra, with it still being February and it's love month, and we've got this whole heart chakra thing going on, this theme this month. And so we've been talking a little bit about things like heart walls this month, and I wanted to emphasize a little bit some more of the things that we find within a heart wall, because I've talked about how we find layers upon layers of emotional energy that is stuck there, and it was put there to protect us. Okay, so but I've also mentioned how this center is the middle. It's that bridge between the lower three and the top three of your seven emotion of your seven energy centers. So it's not just the emotions that you would typically find in your in your heart chakra, in your thymus, in your lungs, in those areas. It's not necessarily only those emotions that you're going to find there. So when we think about your heart center and that chakra, we're looking at things like grief and depression and sadness, and sure, those things are definitely found there. But because these heart walls have a tendency to be built, and everything builds off of it's from the ground up, from the root up, everything builds off of that. So we are not only going to find emotions that are originated in the heart center in these heart walls, just like I've said before that you can find any emotion any place, but we find a lot of these things because they are built off of it, and then they kind of do filter down somewhat as well. And I don't know that filter down is like really the correct terminology, but for all intents and purposes, that's going to be okay for how to describe that here now. Because really what it has to do with is, how can your heart center be open? How can you not have this heart wall there, if all of these other things are kind of clogging that ability? If that makes sense. So let's go ahead, or let's start at the bottom. All right. So the root chakra. So when we are in the root chakra, we some of the emotions that you're going to find there that are often found in a heart wall are going to be things like fear and horror and guilt. And these, I mean, the root chakra, when this is out of balance, when there's stuff going on with that, you're not grounded. And it's very important to be grounded, on a regular basis. Go outside, touch the grass. I can't really touch the grass right now. I'm looking out my window into several inches of snow right now. But there are plenty of ways to get yourself grounded, even just having a fire inside, snuggling with your pets. And if you absolutely want to get out there and put your toes, even in the snow, just take some boiling water out there, pour it into a whole spot, and then take off those shoes and socks, and you can stand there and you'll be okay for a little while. But a lot of times I will find emotions of things like fear and guilt, and things like that. And they will even be inherited because we have these family patterns of fear and guilt. And a lot of the time it's because our ancestors, they had a legitimate reason for feeling the fear that they did. They had a legitimate reason. And, so they pass some of that on to us. And it's not, they're not meaning to. It's just what happens. It's just what we do. And I've passed on fear and guilt and all kinds of nonsense to my kids, and you'll do the same. It's just, it's just how it is. It's just part of this schoolroom earth that we're in, but that's okay. But that's where I'm finding like a lot of inherited things like that. And it's normally the inherited stuff in heart walls is usually something that's very root chakra centered. So yeah, things like inherited guilt, inherited fear, inherited horror, inherited terror, those kinds of things that just like really stick with a person, really stick with a frequency, and move right along into the new frequency of the new baby, and along it goes. So, I mean, you can't really, if you're not grounded, if you're not properly grounded, you're not going to be able to have, give and receive proper love. So these definitely are connected. So let's move up to the sacral, which is our sexual center. This is all right. This is your pleasure center. So super fun. All all life begins with an orgasm. And so an orgasm really equals life. I forget the name of the woman who said that on stage last year. That just completely blew me away. But hey, ain't that the truth, right? So this is our pleasure center. So this is, what happens when we feel pleasure. And of course, we all deserve to feel pleasure. What happens when we feel pleasure? We feel joy. Joy is something that you will feel in your heart center. It is that opposite of grief. So if we are unable to feel pleasure, which is when your sacral is out of balance. And this isn't only just talking about from a sexual aspect. This is really, all pleasure aspects, and being able to find joy in things. So that's going to leave things out of balance. And you're going to find stuff like that in a heart wall as well. So we're going to find things like shame and unworthiness. This is the area where we feel like like, well, it's not really cool for me to be myself because I get made fun of when I'm myself, or somebody said this, that, or the other thing. So I better act like this person over here. And then, we can go further and further in with this masking so that we're numbing ourselves with binging on whether it's TV or food, addictions, things like that. So we, mask, and it's just this like unworthy feeling. And then we just really can't totally feel pleasure because we confuse pain with pleasure. And then there's like this whole big thing. So I am finding a lot of things like that in a heart wall, because those things are going to block your ability to give and receive love properly as well. And it's not going to let your heart chakra be open. That emotional center is just not going to be open. So then we're probably going to blow right through these because, then like we move up to that solar plexus chakra, which is like our power center, right? But when we are out of our power, we're finding things that we don't have any personal power. This is where we go when we're like, okay, well, it's I'm feeling a whole lot of anxiety. And a lot of it is because, this is where we get rid of our boundaries. So, you're just constantly trying to please somebody else, but you don't have any boundaries to say no. And then you're completely overwhelmed. And then as a result of this, you're suddenly getting low self-esteem. You have no confidence. And very, very overwhelmed. So I'm finding emotions like that, with overwhelm and low self-esteem. It kind of, can overlap a little bit into that sacral with the unworthiness, because, it is kind of just building off of that. But those emotions are going to get in the way of love as well, and a full open heart. So, and then here we are in that heart chakra where, we want to remember that it is okay to be happy. We are supposed to be happy and we do deserve happiness. But we get into this state of grief where we start to believe that we're not supposed to. And that heart wall is in the way, just like, oh, you're okay under here. Everything's fine. We go around saying everything's fine, but in fact, it's not fine. So of course, like I've said before, we are going to find things like grief and depression and sadness, sorrow, crying. Those things are going to be found in a heart wall as well. But let's keep on going there. So let's move on up to that throat chakra next. Okay. So here with the throat chakra, it's interesting. We're finding things like jealousy, and like you're just, you're not able to really speak your truth. You're not really able to have like a healing conversation when this isn't open, because you're not able to be your authentic self. We're really kind of just afraid of being judged. So communication just pretty much tanks. So we are finding things like that, jealousy, even like humiliation and things like that are being found. And that is bridging, that is going in from the heart into the throat chakra there. Because if our heart is not open, then we're not going to be able to open up our voices and have those kinds of conversations either. So it continues to stack off of this. So when we're removing things from the top three chakras in reference to a heart and to the heart wall, it's getting it out of the way so that we can pull out the other things that are in the way. So it's kind of like when you take off the top couple of layers before you get to that middle part, and then you have to remove the bottom two. It's just, and it doesn't have to go in any particular order necessarily, because everybody's energy is going to be a little bit different in the way that they're demanding it, that it's demanding things, because everybody's different. So there is no right or wrong way to really do this. It's just kind of like whatever your energy is wanting to do. But jealousy is probably the biggest one from the throat chakra that will will be in a heart wall. And then, okay, so your third eye and your crown, these are kind of grouped together just because they're both intellectual centers. You know, we have the third eye is the intellectual center, your higher intellectual center with your crown chakra, which is really not even a chakra, it's more of an opening. But this area here, if we don't have, you know, when the heart is so overly protected, when we've gone through all of these other things, you know, we have, you know, constantly trying, being overwhelmed, we don't have these boundaries, we're not able to say how we really feel about this, that, or the other thing. And most of the time, we're talking about a relationship with this, but this can be any kind of relationship, not necessarily a romantic relationship. And this can go into any aspect of your life. We've talked about there's other kinds of walls as well. But really, when it comes down to it, they all are kind of a heart wall ish, you know. We can call them other things, you know, financial walls and this and that. But when we're in this state where, you know, we've done all these things, we have all this other stuff layering up, and it's just trying to protect us so much, and things aren't working, and we're unhappy, and we're in this spot where, like, I don't feel like I'm supposed to be happy. So we're like, well, you know, I keep trying and it's not working. So I must be nuts, right? And everybody seems to, you know, like my partner, my this person, that's person, they seem to be mad at me anyway. So I'm releasing a lot of from these chakras, things like hopelessness and helplessness and confusion, because, you know, we're in this like state of like, okay, well, you know, I must be nuts. So obviously I'm confused because I keep trying all these things and I'm not doing it right. So, you know, this confusion and this, you know, I'm like, okay, well, I'm just going to be, you know, helpless and hopeless. And, you know, and then you go, what's that song? I'm probably even going to sing it wrong, but it's like, no one likes me. Everybody hates me. Think I'll eat some worms, something like that. Right. Like that's the, you know, like, oh, poor me song. So, you know, these are all, I want to make sure everybody understands these are absolutely normal emotions to feel. They are normal things for a human being to feel for whatever reason it is. Because you know what? I may feel overwhelmed over something that somebody else goes, that's no big deal. Why you feel overwhelmed over that? That's not a problem. Okay, grateful for that person. It wasn't. Somebody else it is. Just like when we say things like trauma, like obviously there is, you know, like trauma, like somebody experienced in a car accident and they need to go to the hospital because their body is in trauma. And there's people who have like really insane traumatic experiences in their lives. But there's also just trauma that the body recognizes as something like that when, you know, it's really more subjective when you're taking a look at it. So you know, so I may feel overwhelmed by something and somebody else does not. It the effect is the same on the body. The effect is the same on getting these energy centers out of balance and layering on top of them, and your energetic centers just wanting to give you some sort of a protection so that this doesn't continue to happen. But then it's not allowing the blueprint of your frequency to be healthy enough to then mirror a healthy physical body. And then we start to have issues within our physical body, and they're actually being mirrored by this. So even if we're looking at a heart wall, you know, you want to do your heart center and open up your heart, we're actually going to be balancing all of the other centers as well, because they're all going to be affected depending on what areas are out of balance, because these energies are there that are just getting in the way of us, you know, really just revealing our true essence and our true health. You know, that's when, you know, like heart wall, it can be a health wall. You know, I think I've said financial wall. There's, you know, all kinds of different things that we kind of like protect ourselves, but in this at the same time we're blocking. So, you know, I mean, obviously, like, you know, third eye crown would be your pineal gland and your pituitary gland. And then you've got your thyroid, which of course the pituitary talks to the thyroid. Then you've got your thymus behind your heart chakra, pancreas for your solar plexus, the gonads for your sacral. And then your adrenals for your root chakra. So, anybody who has worked in the holistic fields, especially with like muscle testing and stuff like that, I mean, adrenal glands are one of the main things that come up for people. Because we're feeling, an insane amount of like fear and guilt, and I mean, like, yeah, the world is kind of a scary place. So I definitely recommend looking at things objectively as much as you can and just gathering all of the knowledge that you can, because knowledge has a tendency to zap fear, and then your adrenals can calm down and work the way that they're meant to work, instead of constantly making your nervous system think that you're running from a saber-toothed tiger or something like that. I just love that comparison. So working on your heart, opening your heart chakra, working on removing these layers of a heart wall is going to help the entire body, your spiritual body, that whole frequency field, your morphogenetic field, to give the proper blueprint so that the physical house of your body that has been built will reflect that healthy blueprint. So it's fantastic. So if you would like to book an emotion code session to do a heart wall or any kind of heart chakra clearing, you can just go to deeprootedwellness.com slash .com.as.me. We're gonna go ahead and put it in the thing here on YouTube, but you can go straight to my website and go in the drop down menu and click on emotion code and body code sessions, and that's going to be deeprootedwellnessid.com. Okay, so deeprootedwellnessid.com. Go ahead and book a session. If you want to get a 3-pack or a 6-pack, you save $5 per session. You don't need anything special, like I've said before. Like, this is something that I can just do with a normal session. And I can't wait to work on this with you, because this is really opening up so much more than just your heart. When we get rid of a heart wall and when we open up the heart center, it's so much more. So I just wanted to be able to connect all of those things for you and show you how everything really does just kind of stack off of each other and affects everything. Goes right in there with holistic wellness. Okay. So when we talk about the physical body, like, we are more than just the sum of all of our parts. And that is also true when we're talking about our energy centers and all of the emotional, energetic aspects that we are holding within our frequency blueprint. Okay. All right. I hope that you are having a fantastic February. I will be back next week with more wellness blueprints. Thanks so much for stopping by. Bye for now.